Economic Development and Planning Committee to order at 6 o'clock. Is there any discussion from any committee members, legislators? John, do they have a question? All right. We have guests this evening from Cornell University having to do with our Beech Nut project, Exit 29. Our county executive, if you could come up and introduce them, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. So we have a real treat tonight. For those of you that haven't followed necessarily extremely close, we have the folks from Cornell in the class in which they really looked at communities in which major industry left, and what does the future hold. And I think they're going to present some very interesting themes for us tonight. And we also have some folks from the village here tonight. We have the mayoral election today, so some things are a little bit up in the air. But really excited that Cornell took this on. A lot of credit goes to our county attorney for making the connections, as she is an alum, and making this happen. So we had a kickoff meeting in Canajoharie a while back. Everybody got to take a look at the site. And today's the day where we get to see what they've been doing. So it's very exciting. I'd like to recognize, and I apologize, I'm going to butcher your last name, but the department chair is here, Jeff. There we go. And the next one I can get easily. We have Professor Mitchell Glass, who is the actual professor in the class. So we have a wealth of ideas, information, and talent here tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy what they present today, and hopefully it gets us thinking in sort of outside the box as far as how we move forward with redevelopment, which I must say we are poised to do. There's some excitement in the village the last couple of days. There's a working trailer showed up. People were there with hard hats, and boy, people recognize that right away. So it's an exciting time in the village. It's an exciting time in our county, and we really appreciate you guys being here, and we appreciate the work that you've done, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. So without further ado, please get going, and we'll take it from there. Are we going to do presentations and questions, or?
Yeah, we'll go through the whole presentation and then questions.
Wonderful, thank you. So we give them a warm welcome.
Thanks, Matt. I hope this is a treat. Thank you all for your time to listen to us today. We're very excited to be here. As Matt said, I'm the professor of the course, Mitch Glass. I'm an urban designer and a landscape architect, and I'm actually co-teaching the class with Jeff Chusett, who's the chair of our department, City and Regional Planning at Cornell. And it's a class of 18 students, and it's drawn from the departments of planning, architecture, landscape architecture, historic preservation, hotel restaurant management, information science. So it's a real range of student input and interests that have gone into this work. And we're really at the beginning of the stages. This is about 6 or 7 weeks in. We have the whole rest of the semester to complete the work. So today is really about showing you what we have, the early steps, getting your feedback, and then going back to Ithaca and working these things through to give you a final product. The goals and objectives of this, and this is going to take about 5 minutes, and then we're going to have about 20 minutes of presentation, so no more than half an hour of your time. But really what we're trying to do is build on past studies and current initiatives. We know that a lot of work has been done about the village of Canajoharie in the past 5-10 years, trying to figure out, overcome some of the challenges since Beech Nut left. We're in the process of brainstorming economic development themes. You'll see 4 of those themes tonight. And creating physical design. So what we're not looking to do is to solve a problem in the next 1, 2, or 3 years. What our schemes and what our scenarios are showing are aspirational or hopeful outcomes really in like the 20-year outlook. So these are long time horizons. There might be pieces of this that could be modeled into the next 5-year span of the project and the site, but really it's taking a longer view of the village and of the Beech Nut site. We're going to visualize these through plans, 3D models, and renderings. You'll see the beginnings of those tonight, and we really want to know, we're asking the question, are we on the right track? And we'd love to hear from you if we are or not. Just a quick overview to let you know that we're thinking about the village really in the context of the county. You all know this much better than we ever will, but I just wanted to show you that we're aware that Canajoharie is one village among 7 in the Mohawk Valley, and the importance of looking at it regionally and its identity in complementing or in contrast to those other villages. We know that regional agriculture plays a huge part. It's played a huge part to the village and the town and the county historically. We know that over 130,000 acres are in farming as of 2012, contributing $86 million a year over time, and how that is so important to Canajoharie as a place and the county more generally. We're also aware of the truck issue, for instance, that the trucks are coming through Canajoharie and making a crazy turnaround off that exit and going points north and south to the distribution center. So we know when we're thinking about urban design, thinking about the village and the beachfront site, how this kind of activity impacts what we're going to be doing. This is a diagram showing the current situation of those trucks getting off on exit 29, coming to Main Street, making that turn, doing the big loop, and then going north or south on Church. And we're aware that you have all had discussions about what some of the potential solutions for that might be. Those are the yellow lines coming through, carrying a road directly through the Beechnut site that lines up with Erie Boulevard, or carrying it north to Incinerator Road and moving it that way. So the students and the teams have been thinking about these options and how they might affect a plan for the Beechnut site, and you'll see that in some of the schemes. We're aware of the floodplain issues. We're interested in what your conversations have been about the flooding. We know there was a bad one in 2006, and we know that this will continue to impact the site, and we need to be aware of that as we move forward with any scheme on the property. This is a diagram that one of the students came up with showing average travel time to retail outlets from Canajoharie. And I think this is really interesting and important to know that Canajoharie has a lot of assets within it, but there are some elements that are missing that might be considered to be put back over the next 5-10 years or even sooner. And lastly, a couple of assets. The farmers market, we know that's an important amenity to the town. Where should it go? How can it be made stronger? How could it fit into a potential redevelopment scheme? The Erie Canal Bike Race. This is, from what we understand, is a pretty big deal for the village. When cyclists come through, they stay at the high school, and how important that is to the local economy for a day or two in the summer. So these are the economic development strategies or themes that we've been brainstorming over the last couple of weeks. And what's going to happen is a student will come up and make their presentations of each of these 4 themes. Excuse me. The first one is Canajoharie Food Hubs and Networks. The student will talk about industrial startups and entrepreneurship, environmental focus and green jobs, and regional arts, recreation, and cultural hub. And I think what we're proposing here is that these are not mutually exclusive. There are lots of overlaps to these ideas, but what we've asked the student teams to do is to take this as the genesis of suburban design ideas for the village and the site. So without further ado, Adam will present
Good evening, everybody. I am really excited to be able to present to you tonight the idea that we have that both respects the heritage of Canajoharie but anticipates its future needs. To that end, we are interested in both revitalizing the area around Beechnut, the former Beechnut site, as well as the village itself, by capitalizing, as you see, on existing infrastructure network and food systems in the area. We wish to continue to respect the village by connecting our vision for the agricultural and food hub to the rest of the village, bringing that economic development beyond the edges of the site. In preparation for looking at this, we did a lot of analysis of the existing infrastructure and systems and possible ways to expand those. Here we were looking at a potential food distribution network that already exists in different forms. These are 2 different systems that are currently using a single supplier for food distribution that could be transitioned to a more Canajoharie focused one. As you can see, it is the epicenter of both of these systems. One is the local SUNY schools. The other is a system of regional hospitals. There is also the potential, a high potential for agritourism, as there are existing agritourism sites all around western Montgomery County. The lines you see there are respectively 5 and 10 mile radius around Canajoharie. There are a lot of potential sites as well that have not been used to their full agritourism potential. And in order to inform ourselves as to the community wishes, we wanted to use a lot of background information that was provided to us generously by Canajoharie and the residents of Canajoharie, including the community vision that you collectively did in March 2018, as well as some of the agricultural planning that was done in 2017. This is the initial concept that we have come up with for the site. I'm going to hit some of the larger points here and we'll go into more detail. We wanted to, as I said, connect it with the village as a whole, so you'll see that some of our ideas expand beyond the boundaries of the site, really integrating the community with our idea for an agricultural food hub. The core of our whole system is a pedestrian path that runs down the center of the site, connecting different but synergistic uses. In addition, there's also a connection to the existing marina, which we have considered and thought about extending further into the creek there. However, we really are more interested in bringing people from the park that exists along the river into the site itself and further along the creek. On the west side of the creek, we wanted to bring a more community-focused aspect of the agricultural and food hub into this site. So we thought about a community welcome center as well as an agritourism visitor center might be appropriate here, as well as bringing in some sourcing for a local food grocery, sort of a cooperative exercise that also involves some community education. The real centerpiece of this section would be the relocation of the farmers market to a much larger site close to the marina and the park that would be an indoor-outdoor year-round farmers market, allowing people to both sell and buy local agricultural produce. Across the creek would be a more industrial-focused area that would have things, we've imagined things like a brewery or distillery exploiting the local high-quality water, as well as some of the farm resources in the area. The second highest agricultural production are grains and field crops. There's also potential for regional food distribution or secondary agricultural production, such as milling or fiber production, etc. Another highlight here would be a vocational educational training center, specifically centered around the culinary and agricultural systems involved, to both supply the local farming community with educated workers as well as the technical know-how that they need, and to bring uses into the community through the culinary arts. And on the far edge, you would see a more practical use, as well as some aesthetic uses to keep us grounded in the fact that this is all very visible from the highway. We imagined an agricultural equipment sales sort of servicing area, as well as some more decorative uses like an agricultural sculpture, bringing the marina potentially in a little bit further, just to create a little bit more engaging space around the edge of the campus. This is what we might see in sort of a 20-year perspective if the site is extremely successful and is able to build up to its full extent, what the campus might look like coming in and through Canajoharie. And really, we're just really excited about this indoor-outdoor farmers market, really expanding the capacity there. This is our image for what the future of the former Beechnut site and the future Canajoharie agricultural food hub would look like.
Good. Out to you too.
And I'm going to be talking to you guys about industrial startups and entrepreneurship possibilities in Canajoharie. So, given our theme, we wanted to look back to the rich industrial history of Canajoharie, but also look into the future in terms of creating more of an industrial hub that provides sustainable opportunities, but is also inviting both to the community and to tourism, and also allows for flexible uses in terms of both the population in general and of businesses that could be moving in. Given that, we try to incorporate the village's identity, the current parks that exist in Canajoharie, as well as creating spaces that are walkable, that are open, and that allow you to have a lot of variety in terms of potential uses, really so that you can treat this space as your own and use it to the best potential of the community. So specifically, we looked into the community visions from back in 2018, and there were, of course, a few big points that we wanted to touch on. Of course, bringing in a young workforce, bringing in innovation to the village, reducing negative truck traffic through the town. Those are some big ones. We're connecting the Beach Nut site to the rest of Canajoharie, the downtown, the parks, the valuable cultural centers of the town, and maximizing public green space in making an inviting open area that the entire community can really utilize and enjoy. So that in mind, you can see here we have some regional analysis, a sense of some of the manufacturing that's going on. Of course, Walmart distribution centers, very close to Canajoharie, there is a significant amount of agricultural industry and production, especially when it comes to dairy production, yogurt, cheese, and various other agricultural products. It are significant draws to the area. And of course, locally, some industries that jumped out to us as real grounding portions of the community are businesses such as Richardson Brands at 101 Erie, WW Custom Clad at 337 East Main, and Ron Allen Trucking, all of which touch on some of those key aspects of industry that we are trying to preserve and invite further into Canajoharie with our proposal here. So our initial concept, as you can see, we try to create an industrial campus with buildings that have potential for scalable industry that allows for smaller and larger businesses to move in, to grow as needed, that has a very open and welcoming campus, that provides room for workforce training, but still allows for administrative buildings, mixed-use commerce buildings, that has potential for expanding the marina to, again, bring tourism in and keep industry as a focal point of the community, not just for those who live there, but also as a draw to let people who are coming through Canajoharie see the wonderful work being done there. We also have been looking into the concept of directly linking this campus with the waterfront arc in the context of a waterfront walkway, allowing for, again, direct connection between the parks that currently exist, between those cultural centers, and a new industrial campus that still allows for dynamic public use. We have some perspective renderings here to give a sense of it. As you can see, we are very interested in the concept of green roofs, again, playing with that idea of having green space that is open, that is inviting, that allows for that innovation and that new sense of industry to move in. And we also have some 3D models that, while very rough now, provide a general sense of the kind of environment that we are trying to cultivate here. And you can see, of course, the concept of scalable buildings that allow for larger industries to move in, smaller industries that really open you up to a wide variety of businesses to utilize this campus while still retaining the community bonds that make it such an important area.
Thanks, Quinn. Team 3, Jake.
Thank you guys all for having us today. To just introduce myself a little bit more. My name is Jacob Soley, and I'm a fourth year urban planning student, architecture minor. And our team, Team 3, focused on environmental issues. So to get in a little bit of our theme, we really focused on the idea of environmental concerns for the region, as well as green jobs coming out of that in a kind of 20-year span. So looking at a little bit longer term than maybe some of the other groups have looked at, just based on that kind of the future of industry and technology and job making. So looking at the community vision done from March 2018, we pulled out specific pieces that we felt applied to the environmental focus, mainly renewable energy, the connections, and then the marina. Within these, the kind of main things some other groups have talked about, the rerouting the truck traffic, which is definitely an issue, and you will see we addressed. The marina, we decided to locate it farther in, more towards the main downtown on Church Street and Main Street in order to be more easily accessible. And then in terms of renewable energy, looking at solar panels and other renewable electricity in order to power the new area. So in terms of our regional analysis, we broke down into 5 categories, 4 categories shown here. The different types of green jobs that could be focused in the future. So that had to do with just general office space, mainly corporate offices, skewing towards a green focus in the region, scientific research centers or tech hubs in the region, distribution centers, generally more corporate distribution centers, and then environmental educational centers as well. So going back to the vision plan that was done in 2018, one of the main things we definitely looked at were the kind of connections that you guys had addressed and mentioned in terms of connecting through the existing beachnut site. So this was our initial concept, which then we broke down into our 5 main focuses in terms of green jobs that we assessed, as well as a few others. So just to first identify the 1 through 5, we put the new distribution center right off of the highway. If you go back, you can see a new entrance right off of the highway exit. Then we put the educational center, green educational center, within the existing beachnut historic factory. We had an exhibition space that we put right next to a piece of the old beachnut factory, building a new technology hub right on the water with recreational access for people across the street into the new marina area. We have the office, which we put in the old part of the beachnut site, and then 2 other pieces, a pavilion, which is kind of anchors the marina in terms of access and kind of congregation, and then turning more of the historic downtown into a more residential area that can kind of feed this new development. So we did have a couple perspective views, mostly focusing on the marina. So that's the pavilion building that we talked about that could be there. And then another one with the Thruway in the background, looking at that.
Hi, so our team focused on the theme of arts, culture, and recreation. So our goal is to kind of establish Canajoharie as a new arts and recreational center and kind of bringing together the existing synergies of the region to one established presence. So this is a regional analysis that we conducted of the arts and cultural centers in the Mohawk Valley. So as you can see from the map, most of the arts and culture centers are concentrated in Utica and Albany, and we want to kind of bring those together to a central point at Canajoharie. This is a regional analysis of the recreation centers. So as you can see, the closest fitness center and indoor movie theater is 30 minutes away, and the closest outdoor recreation center is an hour away. So we want to bring people to a place which is much closer to them by establishing a new recreational center in Canajoharie. And we also kind of connecting the bike trails, the schools, museum, and entertainment areas and parks already there with our new proposal. So this is something that we were also looking at, the potential recreation network that we were keeping in mind when we were developing this new cultural center. And some of the takeaways that we had from the March 2018 vision was to create a flexible open space, new trail connections, provide access from the marina by boat, as well as an all-season athletic facility. So these are some early concept sketches that we did. And this is our main concept sketch. So to go over the main programs that we were thinking about was to have first a regional arts museum, which would closely work with the Arkell. Also connected to that is the educational center, and then across from that would be a performing arts center with arts, with a music hall, concert hall, theater halls to showcase like different festivals or different performances by the universities nearby. And across from that, next to that, we have an indoor gymnasium, which could host the Erie Canal bike trail, as well as host several sports events and activities. And across from the Regional Arts Museum, we have Urban Square, which could kind of function as a seasonal facility. It's a large open space, which could function as a ski rink during winter time, as well as a place for the farmers market during summer times, as well as other festivals in the summer season. And across from that, we propose an artists village to bring together the different artists from the Mohawk Valley region. So part of the artist village, we have fabrication shops, studios, as well as artist residencies where the artists can come and create artworks and kind of bring this whole area to life. And in between those, we have smaller piazzas for smaller scale arts installation. And across from that, as you walk from the freeway, you will see a big sculpture park with large scale sculptures developed by the artists, as well as different artists from the region as well. So this is an early concept sketch for the artist's village. We were thinking about this colorful shipping containers placed around, and we want these shipping containers to be elevated above the ground to accommodate for flooding. And this is a precedent that we were looking at to kind of create this new vibrant town for artists and locals alike. This is our closer look into the urban square, this large open space which could be function as a seasonal facility. And this is our sketch for the Crete design to develop this large open public space for pedestrians and bikers alike, and kind of bringing together the trail and this bike trail. This is a draft perspective that we had from the highway. So as you're coming in from the highway, you can see this large sculptures and this colorful artist village in the background. And this is a view from the marina as you're coming in, as you've docked your boats and walking into the village. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all we have. Hope it wasn't too long. Thank you for your patience. Any thoughts or comments or questions for the students or for us as faculty? On the right track, or other things you'd like to see? Yes, sir.
I really like the way all the groups accentuated the waterways and the canals and the bike trails. I would just like to add one more thing, that Canajoharie doesn't have an airport. And if they had a little mini airport close by, I think it would really tie all that in together. You know, so
Okay.
I like your presentation, all of them. It's very, very interesting.
Do you feel that the workforce that would be created from this would be more of a local workforce, or would it be a daily migratory workforce from Utica, Albany, Schenectady, Amsterdam, Cobleskill? I mean, is there any preference to what that should be expected?
I think we responded in part to the comments that we had at the last visit about the need for the desirability for some training for local residents as part of whatever we're doing. So I think our first interest would be building the local workforce into a productive one. then beyond that, I think obviously the scale of some of these are ambitious enough that they would draw people in from 20, 30 miles away or more, depending on the growth of the program. Part of what this has mostly been an urban design study, so behind it, there are also economic and other kinds of thinking that we're doing. So we are thinking about who the workforce might be, who the audience would be, and I think that will influence all of our conversations as a class moving forward.
I think the exciting part about all the presentations was there seemed to be a balance between the industry, arts, and most importantly, residential. Because if we're bringing new industry, and there's certainly the housing stock in Canajoharie could use some uplifting. So I was glad to see that was in there. I kind of where I got lost on was the importance of, or lack of the importance of, that throughway exit. You know, I think my perception originally was straight through and connecting to that, but it was interesting to see how it seemed like the best relationships where it come off the Thruway bear to the right, going closer to the Mohawk River Bridge,
Right.
and giving you the proper turning lanes.
We want to accommodate the trucking, but we don't want it to determine the future of that site. It's too important a site for a semi to say what it should be.
Right. Smokestacks pushing out diesel. Great. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm the representative for Canajoharie, and I just wanted to tell you that was just an extremely comprehensive plan. And you really picked up on a lot of the things that the village has been talking about for years, and you just really nailed it. And as you mentioned, to project out 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the green energy jobs, and we're preparing the workforce for these new jobs. It was unbelievable. I can't thank you guys enough.
I think Connie.
Yeah, no, my comments, I think most, really you're right on track. I love the way you balance making it a regional hub and bringing people to the community, but also serving the existing community. And I think that's a careful balance that we have to keep in mind. Just some of the ideas that I really love, the idea of a all-season indoor art center. I'd love to see some designs and what you come up with there, because we were talking about, you know, the concerts and where we could do it and things of that nature. And not only do you have the brutal winters up here, but you also have the fact that you're right adjacent to the Thruway, which is loud and noisy. So, you know, having something that's indoors really could be a great complement to a world-class museum, which is next door. So if you could come for a string quartet and be able to visit the museum and then have dinner while you're there, I personally can see people driving from a ways for that experience. So I love that, and I would echo a lot of the other themes that, you know, the waterway, the accessibility, you guys are really right on track, and I look forward to seeing the final product.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's incredible. We've got 25,000 cars
Yeah.
per day going by the village, and it basically advertises itself. You have to exit there, which is just a fantastic asset. Come right off, and there'd be, you know, a whole suite of things to do in one trip.
And to be able to visualize it, that's something that we haven't done a lot of here. To just, you know, even though, I mean, if you showed some of the outside of the box, the art, the one really focused on art, you could probably get some interesting reactions from the community, but I love the way that gets you thinking. And you know, this doesn't have to look like the way it has. It can look very different, and different is okay.
So one of the things that, of course, moving forward, first of all, I'd say I encourage all of you, as you're thinking about this, go ahead and send those thoughts to us. You know, if you tomorrow wake up thinking, you know what, they didn't do it, send it to us. We're now going to be able to do more of a mix and match. This was an exploration of some specific themes and sort of what the implications were. The other thing is that there are interim uses and final uses. So things like art parks can be an interim use while you're waiting for the development to happen down the road. You can bring in something really fun and get the place lively and to attention, and then as the economic development proceeds, gets taken over and becomes something more. So we're looking at phasing as well as the way the different uses combine.
You know, we've had many conversations about industry and tourism. And a couple years ago, we did a SWOT analysis of really who we are as far as tourism goes. And what we found is, you know, we may be rich in history, but so are the communities. So we were looking for a destination kind of thing to bring people into our community. And the nice thing about Canajoharie is it's halfway between here and there. And you know, certainly that would work into our in our head comprehensive plan of having a destination.
We're mindful of the fact that certain things you can put more and more of and they get a bigger crowd, and other things you put more and more of and they're competing with each other. So part of this, arts, agritourism, part of what's nice about those things is that the more that you have, the more people will come, because there's a real big, rich experience of it. Then picking the industries, you have to pick the right industry that isn't going to suck the life out of other things going around. So, but it'd be great to see that SWOT analysis if you have it.
Does anybody else have any questions?
So we'll leave this presentation with you, and we're taking copious notes and have all your comments, and we're going to go back and continue to work. And then our semester ends early May, and I think we'll have another, maybe a video meeting of some kind to share sort of final results, keep you updated on where we're going with this.
Look forward to hearing from you again, and really from the county. We appreciate what you've done, all of you, and the hard work that everybody's been put into this. From Montgomery County, I'm sure I speak for all you, we appreciate it. We thank you, and we welcome you back to our community.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're gonna take like a 5-minute break, if everybody's okay with that. Shall we get this pony show on the road? Where we going? Oh, what we doing? Okay, I think that was a great presentation, and thank you everybody for their input on that. We have, I believe, 3 resolutions tonight. Do we have any questions before we go to the resolutions? Mark, you got a frog in your throat? All right, thanks. First resolution is a resolution amending the resolution number 40 of 2019 grant application for Fonda Fairgrounds Sewer Upgrade Study, Environmental Conservation and Environmental Facilities Corporation, Economic Development Planning. Do we have a sponsor? Brian, second. Mr. Peck. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Abstain.
All those that abstain? Thank you, passed. Or moved on to full board. Resolution number 2, resolution authorizing the transfer of local waterfront revitalization program grant from the Village of Canajoharie to Montgomery County, and authorizing Montgomery County Executive to enter into contracts. Economic Development and Planning. Do we have a sponsor? Mr. Diamond, second. Martin. Any discussion?
Yes.
There's a typo in the title. Is it okay to change it, the authorizing
Yeah, it's cool with me.
counselor?
Counselor?
Yeah, it's a typo. You can treat it as a typo.
Mr. Pett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to ask a question regarding, it says it's going to be more efficient. Is that just because of staffing, Matt? To transfer the grant over to us from the Village of Canajoharie? What makes
Yes.
what makes it more efficient?
We have the professional capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Moving on to the full legislative body. The third and last resolution on tonight's agenda. Resolution accepting grant for Montgomery County Kayak Share Project, amending the 2019 operating budget. Department of State, and authorizing the county executive to enter in a memorandum of understanding, economic development and planning. Any discussion?
Yes.
Sponsor, please. Mr. Peck. Second. Brian. Any discussion? Mr. Peck.
Mr. Chair, just like to ask a question. Who is Audrey Eggleston and what is her significance in this resolution?
I can answer that.
Go ahead. Okay.
Audrey has a kayak
Oh, the one in
in
Amsterdam?
Amsterdam at the
Okay.
Riverfront Center.
Thank
And
you.
she's been doing it successfully for 3 or 4 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Moving on to full board. Got a motion, do we have a motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn. Martin. Mr. Diamond. Legislator Diamond, thank you for correcting me. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we will be ending this at 6. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And timekeeper at the bell.
Yes, you are.
Time you got?
6:50.
Fiscal service, 6:50. Open for discussion. Having none, we'll move to the first resolution. Resolution authorizing the county exec to enter into an agreement with grass brush control county roads for 2019 and 2020.
I'll sponsor.
Legislator Peck, Legislator Sweet, discussion? All those in favor move it to a full board? Aye. Aye. A little more enthusiasm?
Give me more.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, so moved to full board. Next resolution. Resolution to award bids and authorize the county exec to execute contracts 2019 road maintenance program. Legislator Peck. Second. Legislator Diamond. Discussion? All those in favor move it to a full board?
Aye.
Aye. That's better. Opposed? Abstain? Resolution authorizing the implementation and funding costs of replacement of the Cemetery Drive Bridge. Need a sponsor? Legislator Peck. Legislator Sweet. Discussion? All those in favor of moving it to a full board?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved to full board. And resolution abandoning the former South Amsterdam 400 Road, AKA River Road. Public Works.
I'll sponsor.
Okay, Legislator Peck. Legislator Kelly. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
pardon my potential ignorance here, but what is wind standing?
So it's, this area is looked at for, as a potential development. It's a group that, we actually have a representative here.
Oh, okay.
But-
Speak of the devil, huh? Okay.
So feel free if you would like to.
Did you want to say?
I'm John Hartsock. I'm actually an attorney for our helping the Sandy folks on this project. And I want to see
No, so basically, a potential project, we have this issue of this property that needs to be abandoned. Megan has been working on it for some time now and has brought it to this point. I's have been dotted, T's have been crossed, and this will execute the abandonment of that property.
Got it, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, move, oh,
This property we talked about last year, didn't we? Or was that another road that we abandoned?
Another road, that was a different road, man.
Where's this one located?
So we're off over Route 5S towards the interstate.
any other
We
discussion?
don't need it, right?
Positive.
Okay.
You probably don't want to plow it anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. All those in favor, move it to the full board?
Aye.
Opposed? Same? So moved. Anything other? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I need a second. Legislator Diane.
I'm not on the committee. Brian or Kelly.
You want me to?
Second, adjourned.
No, I want to keep going. Legislator Kelly. Okay.
Too much fun.
6:55. Good. Martin's.
Call the Health and Human Services Committee to order at 6:55. Any discussion from fellow committee members or members of the legislature? Move right along. One resolution, a resolution adopting fingerprinting and criminal background checks on new employee policy. Glad we have, all right. Is there anything under other?
Wait, I misraised it.
It's been pulled.
Okay. Sorry, word.
Anything under other? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
All right. That was a quick one.
6:56.
Whatever, we gotta keep going.
Yeah.
We gotta keep going, we gotta get back up there.
That wasn't working out.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
He just said 10 a.m.
Called Public Safety Committee meeting at 6:55. Is there any discussion?
Chair. Chair,
Yes.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank the New York State Police, in the recent project that they had in Amsterdam where they saturated the city for 3 days. There was probably 30 state troopers there continuously. They made 370 stops, 47 drug arrests, and a couple other warrants. And I was glad to see that all the local agencies worked in conjunction with them, including the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. I think it's a great idea, and it shouldn't go without being mentioned. It would be a great idea if maybe we could coordinate something in some of our little villages with the Sheriff's Department and maybe some other local agencies to do the same.
They were all over the place. They were picking people up. Thank you, legislator. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, let's do we want to move on to the agenda? Okay. All right, I need a sponsor for resolution number 1. It's a resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, New York State Innocent Legal Services Grant Counsel at first appearance.
I'll sponsor.
Okay. Okay, Martin, is there a second? Okay, and shall we move it to full board? Any objections? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, we'll move it to full board. Resolution number 2, resolution authorizing county executive to sign New York State Indigent Services Grant statewide. Let's see, Earl Herring and Public Defender. Is there any, can I have a, Mr. Pep?
I'll second.
Troy, okay. And, is there any discussion on this resolution? Silence. All in favor of moving it to, full board?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Just a moment, please. Okay. We move to, full board. Okay, resolution number 3. Resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, Montgomery County Local Government, Records Management granting authorization for the county executive to sign an agreement with General Code Data Processing. Do I have a sponsor? Danny?
We'll just correct the typo there.
Okay.
Data processing.
Do we need to redo the resolution?
Who's the second?
I'll second.
Troy, seconds that, and do we need to do it?
No, if it's a typo, you wanna do you wanna revise the typo to data processing instead of date processing. And also
Data
revise
processing.
the typo that says grant and
And that's
and
correct.
put a space in between.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that correct? See, when you get a little like me, your eyes get a little bit, not as good.
For that Cornell education. I have occasions as well.
Okay. All right, so we move this to full board?
Aye.
Okay, any abstentions? Any objections? Okay, then we'll move that to full board. Is there any other discussion? I didn't see the sheriff object here tonight, so I didn't think there'd be much coming up, so we have a resolution to adjourn. Danny? Brian? Okay, all in favor of adjourning the Public Safety Committee?
Is there someone on the committee who would like to move to adjourn? Oh, it's Dan. Sorry, Dan.
We do that.
You know. Thank you very much, everyone.
I didn't have a committee.
Sorry, it did work.
Okay, we'll call the Education Government Committee to order at 7:01. First thing on the agenda is discussion for the chair, committee members, or fellow legislators. Anyone have anything to discuss? If not, we'll move right on to the resolutions. First resolution is a resolution amending Resolution 33 of 2019. Resolution approving new collective bargaining agreement between FMCC, Fulton County, Montgomery County, and Fulton and the Fulmont Association of College Educators. Is sponsored. Legislator Wilson, second. Legislator Diamond, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute agreements for the FMCC campus labs and classrooms Phase 2 project. Need to sponsor. Legislator Pep, second.
I'll second.
Legislator Wilson. Discussion.
Is that another type? What do we have going here with these numbers?
Phase 2.
Okay.
500 plus.
All right, I'm good.
We good?
The $1 million in the first line is from the total of some other amount.
Those three.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute amendment number 3 to the agreement between counties of Fulton and Montgomery and JMZ Architects and Planners, PC, for the FMCC classroom building renovation Phase 2 project. Any sponsor? Legislator Pep, second. Legislator Wilson. Discussion.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution confirming the appointment of the county executive for representative to serve on the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank Board. Need a sponsor? Consider Diamond, second. Consider Pep. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution proclaiming April 2019 as Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Month in Montgomery County. I'll sponsor. Need a second? Consider Wilson. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Under other, we have an add-on, right? Is that this one?
Yes.
Okay. I believe you all have it. This is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute agreements for the FMCC Theater and other buildings renovation project. Need a sponsor? Consider Pep, second. Consider Kelly. Kelly. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? So carried. Anything under other? Not. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Consider Diamond, second. Consider Wilson. Just had to make sure you're on the committee.
He's on.
Got order.
Yeah.
All right, I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee to order at 7:05. And remind that this is a committee of the whole. And open up the floor for any items of discussion prior to getting into resolutions. Hearing none, we'll move forward with resolutions. And each of these resolutions, just to bring to your attention, one of them obviously ties into a resolution we had in Public Works as far as the cemetery bridge is concerned, but all of them are part of our capital plan, and that has been approved, has been discussed in seeking approval for bonding of these projects. All right, our first resolution is a bond resolution of the County of Montgomery, dated March 26, 2019, authorizing the study and engineering of a public works and business development facility within the county, estimating the aggregate cost thereof to be $750,000. Appropriating said amount therefore and authorizing the issuance of $750,000 in serial bonds of the county to finance said cost. Do I have a sponsor? Chairman Headwell, do I have a second? Legislator Wilson, any discussion on this? Legislator Pertel.
$750,000 seems to be an enormous amount for engineering. Don't make me feel comfortable with that.
Well, I'm passing that one to you, buddy. I did the original discussions, or I had the original discussions with CPM and a couple other architectural engineering firms getting estimates of time frame for the size facility that we're looking at and what, geological studies are and, the wetland studies, all soil bore, everything's involved. And they gave us a number from 600 to 750,000. So when we had our meeting with our capital projects with Chairman Headwell, Legislator Pep, we discussed at that meeting to not go on the low side in case it came, we didn't want to be over. So we wanted to be able to be secure. So we may not hit that 750,000 when we go out for RFP. We'll know what the numbers are going to be at that point. So this is not a set in stone number from an architect or an engineer.
So is kind of a start to finish kind of engineering?
That money
for the whole
is
project?
start to finish till the day you get your CO and you're in the building. Is it, inspection, design, bidding, construction, inspection, closing.
Now, previously we talked about the DPW garage. Maybe it's not the first time I heard of it, but this is something more than RDC last year. I mean, is there a reason we wouldn't use part of the $2 million, or we're not allowed to use part of the $2 million to do that?
Yeah, the $2 million only comes into consideration if you actually follow through with the construction of it.
Kind of reimbursement?
And I would say, similar to the 750 in relation to, you know, the Business Development Center, we had a lengthy discussion of, you know, what do we look at, you know, let's look at, you know, in a perfect world, we got everything we wanted, this is what it'd be, knowing the fact that, you know what, we might have to scale it down, but, you know, let's take a look at everything up front and take it from there.
Okay, thank you all for your discussion.
Hearing that, any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving it on for formal approval next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our next resolution is a bond resolution of the County of Montgomery, New York, dated March 26, 2019, authorizing the replacement of the Cemetery Road Bridge within the county, estimating the aggregate cost thereof to be $2,002,451, appropriating said amount therefore and authorizing the issuance of $2,002,451 of serial bonds of the county to finance said cost. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Wilson, do we have a second? Legislator Diamond, any discussion on this resolution? Legislator Pratap.
This is Cemetery Road in town of Florida off of Route 30, that brick, or that concrete construction is similar to the ones that are in Cranesville.
Exactly the same. You know, they're constructed in 1938, 39, somewhere in there.
What's the expectation? We're replacing 2 bridges on Cranesville for 1.4.
So this bridge requires a temporary structure to be built, because there's no other detour route that can be used. So there's a lot of historical situation down there in Mineville so there's some ship all that's got to be done. There's right-of-way acquisition here, so there's some property that's got to be purchased to build the temporary structure, which will then be maintained and owned by the county going forward. This is a Bridge New York project, so it's 95% reimbursable. So we're fortunate to get awarded. We put in for 7 bridges when we applied to the program. We were lucky to get awarded 1. Story County got 7, you know, so.
Again, thank you for answering the question.
Any other questions or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving it on for formal approval next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And our third and final resolution, a bond resolution of, or excuse me, not final, but third bond resolution. Bond resolution of the County of Montgomery, dated March 26, 2019, authorizing community college improvements, various improvements to the county buildings, the acquisition of vehicles and equipment, estimating the aggregate cost thereof to be $1,050,000, appropriating said amount therefore and authorizing the issuance of $1,050,000 of serial bonds of the county to finance said cost and related expenses. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond, do I have a second? Legislator Wilson. I will say this, the $250,000 component from the college is tied to the resolution under Legislator Sweet's education committee, but other than that, the other 2 components we spoke about at this capital projects meeting of, you know, looking to establish a go-forward plan as it pertains to building projects and vehicles, and trying to keep a certain amount of money involved in bonding every year toward the update of those. That's it in a brief frame job. Sean can elaborate on that a little bit more, or Matthew, but any other discussion?
I was looking if by next week, if someone could get me a description of the breakdown so I can better understand what those dollars are going for.
For the 300 and the 500? We know the 250, it was in that resolution. Gentlemen?
Please, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, we carry that to the full board next week. And our final resolution, a resolution approving abstract of audited claims. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Sweet, Legislator Kelly with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Carries to next week. Carrying on with our committee here, we are going to get into the budget workshop phase and go over our dashboard and the departmental reports. You should have them in front of you. Okay? We'll discuss that last.
I don't believe I have any of that.
Let's wait till we get everybody geared up here.
Right next to us.
All right, we'll start off with our dashboard. We're 17% of the way through the year, 2 months in here. So any revenue line item less than 12% gains a red caution area, and any expenditure over 22% gains a red caution. So going down the ledger here, our first category showing red is a sales tax. We're 2 months in. We know we have a 60-day lag here on the receipt of these. So that's why you don't see any values in the year-to-date figure. However, meeting with the Treasurer Bowerman prior to this meeting, since this report was published, he has receipts of $2 million year-to-date, and same time last year, $1,091,000. Excuse me, $1,910,000. So we're up about $80,000 year over year, according to Treasurer Bowerman. So we'll start to see some values in that category next month on the March dashboard. Our next category is state aid DSS. And as we know, we have lags there. We see no values there as well. And it is my understanding that claims for January have been submitted. The director explained that to me today, and that was the impression that our treasurer was under when I met with him last night before this meeting. However, he had not yet received journal entries on them, so they're not recorded at this particular point in time. In discussing that matter with the director, she indicated that she thought that they would be submitted while she was away on vacation, and took a look at them and saw that they needed some correction. So she gave us her word that she would get those journal entries over to the treasurer in the next day or two. The February claims have not been filed yet, but she has to wait until March 20th to get the report for which to issue that claim file. So we're pretty much on target here as long as we get these journal entries, because as you recall, the blueprint that we laid out was that by the 20th of the month we're in, the claims from the previous month should have been filed. Fairly close to what we're looking for here. What do you mean?
20th of the month is tomorrow, and we only have January.
Yes, and so February should be filed by tomorrow, but she's going to need a couple more days on that because she has to review the journal entries that were supposed to be pertinent to January.
So we're making great progress.
We're making progress, yes. Legislator Isabel.
May I talk to Sean, please?
You may, absolutely.
Sean, we had the same problem over a year ago. Things that are left open from last year, are they going to affect you going forward right now in this particular department?
I don't know if Legislator Pat's going to get involved in the discussion about the I believe these
Yes.
are the reconciliations.
Yes, and I was going to go there, but it's okay. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
at this point, like I said, I do believe there still is considerable reconciliations to be done for year-end 18.
Well, let me just clarify. In the middle of January, the director gave us a letter that indicated that the claims had been filed through November, which was okay at that particular point in time, and that she had done reconcilements through September. And to be perfectly honest with you, Legislator Isabel, it was admitted that reconcilements have not been done beyond September at this particular point in time, leading to your question, which is reconcilements pertinent to October, November, and December need to be done so that we can close our books. Absolutely, you're correct.
But we billed for those.
So.
Yeah, they're all billed.
Have you spoken to her about that or not?
I did have a very short conversation with her today.
Okay. Did she promise you when they would be in?
No, that did not come up.
And Legislator Isabel, just to let you know that as you saw her discussing with me before the meeting, I also impressed upon her the need for the timing of that, because the purpose of setting up this whole schedule of claims being filed by the 20th of the month and reconcilements being no older than 5 months old were for the purpose of making sure this stuff gets done in enough time to have our audit done on time. So I impressed that upon her and said that we're all very interested in knowing that we can have the audit done on a more timely basis this year. We like to have it done by the end of April, and she indicated to me that she would work feverishly on those reconcilements to ensure that. So, and I'm passing that communication on to the rest of you.
So how long before when is the last date you can get these in? And still be on time with your report?
Like I said, the AUD is due to the state by April 30th. If that's the last piece outstanding, like I said, I need probably about a week before April 30th to be able to look at and finish the report.
So 4 or 5 weeks.
So it's got to be probably done within the next month.
And we can certainly use some help from our county executive in that regard, yes.
Yeah, well, I would say two things are different than last year. Number one is we have a really sound structure to identify whenever there isn't any getting behind, so to speak. So that's helped because after the discussions we've had together, I also made a call to the commissioner today and emphasized to him where we're at and what needs to be done. And I also spoke to the director. So between all of us, if the message hasn't been heard loud and clear, I'd be very surprised. Also, secondly, we have successfully hired a number 2, so to speak, in the finance unit that we didn't have before. That person has been trained, is up and running, and has been helping rather than it being all beyond one person. So there has been some progress, although it still is frustrating at times, and we have to stay on top of it. But I think we're in much better shape than we were last year.
We have a control that's been excellent on getting this stuff filed on time, and now all of a sudden we're popping up late because of certain departments or certain people, and I don't quite see that. It's a year ago we had the same problem, actually worse.
Yeah, it's something that we can.
He shouldn't be blamed for it. He was the first day he was real late last year, and that was the first time in a long time. So I think some action by this board should be taken.
Do you have a recommendation on what type of
I
action?
think she should be penalized in some way. I don't think she's doing her job right. And that's it. I don't want to go any further.
Thank you, Legislator Isabel. Legislator
Can we
Patel.
start off with a memo or something from the legislator, just that, look, we're interested in getting this done. It's highly important to us and significant.
Absolutely.
I mean, can we all agree on that?
I think we're directing this I think we should be directing this toward the commissioner, because this person works under the commissioner. I says it's not, we shouldn't be looking at an individual, it's the commissioner. I mean, right now, his feet should be being held to the fire, and he's the one that should be looking or asking he's the one that should be asking the questions that we're asking right now. He's the one that should be looking at a daily basis of where things are in this whole deal. So that's where my thought is, we shouldn't be directing any kind of memo or anything to the individual, it should be going to the commissioner, or that should be dealing with the commissioner.
Very good
And
point,
you know
Joe.
how we feel. Thank you.
And I would say that the message was given loud and clear to the commissioner today. And I think this discussion that we've had and putting mechanisms in place to identify when there are issues helps me address them better. And I think they know loud and clear what needs to be done. The person was not in the office for 3 weeks, so there is some catch up going on right now. But my expectation is that the audit goes in on time, and that's what needs to happen. And you know, I've done what I can to relay that to both the commissioner and the director, and I think they know loud and clear where the legislature stands as well.
But I think also that at this point, it should be loud and clear to the commissioner that he needs to make sure that he has someone in that office that can act as a backup. Because it being on, you know, our employees are, you know, they can have their three weeks vacation, they can have their vacation, but we still have to run. The county still has to run and do what it's supposed to do. So when she came back, these things should have been done. She shouldn't be playing the catch up.
And they were, and there's just, you know, again, and I haven't gone entry by entry and done that, and I don't, and quite frankly, I don't know what else I can do besides do that at this point. There is a backup. We've made a point of making sure that's there. I personally recruited someone. That person's been in the job, is trained. Apparently there were some discrepancies over, you know, maybe was it a mistake, was it not a mistake? The director wanted to make a couple changes. So the work was being done, but, you know, again, there was some catch up to be done when the director returned, so.
Legislator Patel.
I would agree that it's not the director that we need to be addressing or setting our expectations to or through our county executive. But, you know, this is important, and, you know, we shouldn't have to deal with this every year that there's an issue. That's for the director, the executive commissioners. The commissioners. So I mean, whether Matt delivers that message or we deliver that message, I think it's important that
Well, I think
everybody understands that our expectation is that we're able to do the AUD on time, and that should go for every department.
And toward that end, Legislator Patel, I have no problem as chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee drafting a memo on behalf of the legislature with the clerk of the legislature to reinforce our position on this. You know, even though obviously, you know, the day-to-day operations are the responsibility of the executive, it's not going to hurt for them to see it formally in writing that it's our expectation that these reconcilements are done in a timely fashion so that we can file this aud by the April 30 required deadline.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Legislator.
This board has an excellent representation how it conducts financially the county. So does the executive and so does the controller. I think that, you know, to continuously let this go year by year and not correct it is going to eventually reflect on the board.
Oh, you're absolutely right, and that's all the more reason for us to get involved here and issue a correspondence of that nature. So let's, you know.
So he's got 5 or 6 weeks to get this in.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
And so we're not there yet, but signs are pointing to the fact that it could be cutting close, and you're absolutely right. So that's why we should take some action.
And can we be updated on that, on the progress of that, please?
Absolutely. I mean, and certainly by, you know,
or whoever wants.
You know,
Well, we could, I think next month, or even potentially if there is an update at the full board next week, we'll, as soon as we have information on where we're at, we'll let you know.
well, I think what in our memo, what the expectation we should lay is that by next month's budget workshop, we expect the reconciliations to be done through year end, so that the audit can be issued done by the treasurer by the end of April. Legislative Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I share everyone's concern about this, obviously, but I think we ought to take care not to be directing department heads or their subordinates. I think that's really not under our purview as legislators. I think perhaps one of the things we can do is we can ask the commissioner to appear before the board. And perhaps we can address it obliquely, but I think to directly issue a memorandum, I think is inappropriate.
On our behalf?
Yes.
Okay.
What if we direct it to the county executive and he can relay?
Well, I think
He had something in writing.
I think the executive hears us, but I want to make sure that we don't cross lines here. This is a legislative body. We don't hold executive authority.
Executive Ossofor, can you please impart that message to the commissioner?
Yes,
and the director, that it's our expectation that reconciliations will be completed for 2018 by our budget workshop meeting next month?
Absolutely, and I would also say that I think Legislator Chessie's idea of bringing the commissioner in to talk about this is an excellent one, because one of the challenges that Sean and I have, and I will use Sean as an example because he's infinitely more gifted than I am in the county finances, have a difficult time understanding the ins and outs of the reimbursement process at DSS. It is a wildly complicated process. You really have to get down into the nitty gritty to understand it. Would you second that, John?
Yeah, I don't know myself.
It is tough, and we've spent time going there, but to have them here to answer some questions, I think is fair, and we'll give you better answers, because we, at times, are often charged with relaying information which, is often difficult to relay. And
But I would say this, I would submit this to you, that the next time you could potentially appear before us is a time this should be done by.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's gonna be too little too late if he gets here at the next committee meeting when we tell him this.
I'll get that correspondence out tomorrow and CC the board. How about that?
That's fantastic. Legislator Diamond?
I would also ask the executive if we need, help from the accounting firm, that, we should get it.
Okay, I mean, and that's another aspect of this that's a little, thank you for bringing that up and reminding me. We did pull them in last year. They did sit down with them. They did prescribe a formula whereby, that I've been iterating here, and that you all hear all the time, that by the 20th of March, we should have February's claims filed. By the 20th of April, we should have March's claims filed. And that reconciliations were not supposed to lag, I believe, more than 5 months. Because 5 months being,
Put us past the AUD.
it would put us past the AUD. And and he equipped them with the tools necessary to adhere to that. He sent them to other surrounding counties, I believe, to train and watch so that they could understand how to do it on a more timely basis, and we paid them for it. So it's outside of our contract, I believe. So that's we're beating our head against the wall here. Feeling we took the proper action last year, and it's still not working optimally. Let's put it that way. Yes,
But there was also part of the recommendation was staffing and readjusting of responsibilities, which the executive just stated was head person in the last week. So, I think that it's the county treasurer said it's a very complicated thing where the office, the recommendation was the office wasn't staffed properly, and that the responsibility should be redistributed. So, I don't think I understand all the frustration, but I don't think it's as easy as everyone thinks it is. So,
Understood. Legislator Sweet, did you?
I've got two thoughts. I want to thank Legislator Chessie. I agree with you 100% that we need to keep our separation. That's not our purview. I agree 100%. Secondly is, if the accounting firm is still on, are they still being paid, or is it?
No, that was the effort that they expended in that area last year was was outside the retainer or the,
That was a contract through DSS that they executed, and it was outside of what the legislature's contract was.
for them to do our,
Right.
our
So
focus.
at this point, to bring them in, we're gonna end up spending money to.
Yeah, I don't, if I may, we really took seriously the recommendation of Bonadio, and that was, you know, the number, making sure you have a reliable number two person that's gonna be here long-term. We have that, getting that person trained, and quite frankly, in this area, you can always use the training. We sent them to other counties that are successful. Even some of the best counties still run into issues. It is difficult work, but that's not an excuse. So we have tried, we implemented a structure here in which we can identify where there are any deficiencies. I remember there was a point in here where we were figuring out, you know, what should be the appropriate time periods in which we now know exactly what those are. If they go over, we're on top of it. So I do think there's some progress being made. It's just not happening at a rate in which would satisfy all of us, including myself. I said to Legislator Pep on the phone today, I assume you're just as sick of having this conversation as I am, and it's frustrating, but I do think we're making progress, but I think really, you know, clamping down and demanding results is appropriate.
Chairman Neville.
I agree with that. I think we knew we had problems last year. To fix all those problems in 1 year, I think was really, for us to expect that to all happen would be really unrealistic.
There were impediments, and excuse me, but we had to hire that other person. It took a while. You know,
I think we're moving in the right direction to fix the problem. I think also a 3-week vacation in this critical time didn't also help with the new person there being able to do some of the things. I think we're going in the right direction. I still think people need to be held to the fire on when things need to be done. This discussion needs to happen, but I do think that we're not as bad as we were last year. Things are getting better, and I'm hoping that by this time next year, we're gonna have a whole different conversation in regards to this, you know.
And I would say, just my last point, and quite frankly, we're dealing with this in public health a little bit. The reimbursement process for relatively new people, it's a challenge getting them up to speed. These aren't folks that have been there 10, 15 years, you know, and it's going to take some time, but at the same time, I don't want that to be perceived as making an excuse. I think I'm just being realistic, and that was the message that we heard from Bonadio too as well, is that, you know, every DSS has some struggles with the claiming process, but at the same time, to let it go so it affects our finances, to Legislator Isabel's point, is absolutely unacceptable that we're filing an AUD late. So, you know, if we can get through this year, get caught up at this point, which we're really not that far behind now, with the biggest concern with the reconciliations and the $8 million outstanding, that's my biggest concern right now. You know, if we can get that AUD on time and then look to approve again next year, hopefully we'll start seeing that steady growth, so we're 4 or 5 years down the line, and all of a sudden, we're not having these conversations by month.
That would be that would be a lovely day.
Is it?
All right, let's
How are we doing on the look back stuff? Are we still going after some of that, or is that fell by the wayside? The look back.
Oh, for the 4E, that is what Montgomery has been working on most recently.
So they are still working.
Yes, and that was with, and I've asked the commissioner to start doing reporting on how many 4E cases are open, what the value of those claims are, so we can get a better idea to track that progress, because at one point we had less than 10 4E claims, and I'd like to see, you know, a monthly report on that so we can track the progress there as well, because those are the two biggest ones. But also, 4E might not even be an option in future years, depending on decisions that are made on the federal level. So, you know, while that money's available, while we can go back 2 years, absolutely. We've done a restructuring based on Bonadio's recommendations for the 4E program as well.
All right, let's move on.
Chairman?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I can see your hand there.
I was not there. Anywhere where Mr. Chetsey was saying, I was trying to step across the line to order departments to do things. And I was saying that we should have this rectified as our reputation depends on it, as the board's reputation, as our controller's reputation. When you go out and you start doing your walking door to door, you start seeing people in the city making fun of the city and the things that happen there. And I don't ever want to see anything like that happen here. That's all. Okay? That's all.
All right, thank you, legislator. It's not. All right, just going down, trying to do some of these, this is a great discussion, by the way, and thank you all for your input. State aid, other, you can see it's at 0%. We only have 36,000 in against 8 million. In discussing with, 8 million being a total budget figure, obviously, for the year. Treasurer Bowerman has explained to me that about 6.3 of the money, in this $8 million figure is public health. And they have not filed their claims yet for 2019, for January or February. So perhaps, certainly not the same issue that we're speaking on the DSS side of things, but certainly something that's worth bringing to your attention. All right, the federal aid DSS is the same discussion. When she files for the state, she files for the Fed. So, I mean, we just talked about that quite a bit. Federal aid other, is a small figure there. The budget figure of 142,000, 113 of it is emergency management grants that we, as we receive them, they'll be recognized in there and bring that back up into the green. Intergovernmental charges, you see the real property and elections is 170,000 of that. Public safety is 244,000 of that. And stop DWI is 88,000 of that. So that's about 80% of that budget line item is, or 502,000 is in these three categories. So the good news there is, as you do know from what Sheriff Smith explained to you last week in support of, or last month in support of a resolution, his $150,000 budget line item is tracking really well. He's already up to 66,000, and he's expecting to far exceed his budget figure for the foreign prisoners. All other income, that's a function of tobacco settlement payments, which will start to be received in April. Yes, it is. What's the?
What is that? It used to be $1 million.
Yes, well, when it first started, it was over $1 million, but like I said, there's a schedule for payments, and it goes on into eternity. What the dollar amount is contingent on the sale of tobacco products by the manufacturers. And as they decline, so do the payments.
Thank you.
And if there's no other questions on the general fund, because there's no other red categories, we'll move over to the county road fund.
Can we just stop there for a second?
Absolutely.
My concern is, we're 2 months into the year, and we appear to be on track, but that scares me. That scares me because we budgeted $4 million out of our fund balance, and if we continue on track with that, it makes me uncomfortable. In the past, we would budget, and we've been fine with this in the past, but we've budgeted to use fund balance, and then we're happy when we don't use it. So my concern, or what I'd like to do, is just keep an eye on that, and hopefully we can work towards not using the $4 million fund balance.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've had this discussion before, and we had this study last year done where over the past 3-4 years, we typically budget $3.8 to $4 million of the fund balance to balance our budget, but history was teaching us our actual usage of it when it was cooked in the books was in the range of $1.7 million. Still not, our goal should always be not to use any fund balance, but when we say we're budgeting it and putting it in the budget, that's not what we're actually using by the time we get to the end of the year, because we underestimate sales tax on purpose. Last year it was 29 million, something like that, and 28,475, and we collected 31.7. So those are some good offsetting features that help us not use as much fund balance as we put in the budget, you know, when we get it approved.
So,
So-
you know, thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, you're
But
welcome.
I'm gonna reiterate that, you know, we really should start looking at that and trying to not rely on that fund balance, whether it's only we use 50% of it or not.
Right.
That's still reducing our fund balance.
Oh, there's no
So
question.
Unless we're overcoming that.
Right.
So I don't say that to be, causing a problem. What I'm
No, I
saying
know
is,
that.
as we continue throughout the year on the next 10 months, we need to be cognizant of the fact that even though we are on track,
Yes.
that appears to be satisfactory, but it would be much better if we were better than on track.
And there's no question. There's no question.
Thank you.
And that should be our goal, to never be able to use fund balance. However, the reality and practicality of it is right now, you know, look what we have control over. We have control over property taxes and sales tax. The federal money we receive, the state money we receive, is always a fraction of what the, you know, maybe 80–90% of what we need to run their programs. So we always have to make up that money somehow, and it's hard to do it through sales tax and real estate taxes because we got to stay under the tax.
Understood, but
Yeah.
at some point, fund balances have increased.
Yeah, with tax increases.
Right.
Right. The last time our fund balance increased was at the last year of the supervisors, when they levied a huge tax increase and built it up on their way out the door. You know.
I'm not bringing back old news.
No, but that's the last time it's
At some
increased.
point, we have to start increasing fund balance and not relying on 50% of what we budget. Because at some point, at $2 million a year, you know,
It's going to evaporate.
It's going to erode, so let's just keep that in
Oh,
mind as we move forward.
If you don't think that I'm mindful of that in my everything I say and speak and do, and we're gonna get into it in the departmental reports, you haven't been listening, but I know you have been.
I
so.
listen to everything.
Yes.
Joy.
It's certainly a delicate balancing act, it really is, but, all right, to the county road fund, small line item miscellaneous there, you know, not tracking well, but it's not alarming. The CHIPS money, we can't expect to get that in until we start projects and submitting invoices for it. So that won't start till the weather breaks. And also, that line item will end up getting amended and increased by about $2 million that was being carried forward from last year that didn't get used because of weather projects. On to road machinery fund, miscellaneous line item, rental of equipment, county garage are the big figures in there, but you know, nothing's happened there. Interfund revenues, use of county equipment is what makes that, drives that. And transfers in are done on an as-needed basis, so nothing alarming there. And intergovernmental charges on the health insurance fund is billed on a quarterly basis, so we will see progress there probably after April on the May dashboard. So that kind of wraps up the dashboard. Looking at the departmental reports, looking at the dashboard reports, or excuse me, the departmental reports, you know, going through this here, I mean, the things to concentrate on, obviously, as we review this, is who's saying that we might use fund balance, back to certainly Legislator Patel's concern. And you can see auditing, no alarms there, Board of Elections, none, central purchasing, none, county attorney, none, county clerk, none, county treasurer, none. County treasurer, we will talk about what he's brought up here when we get to human resources and personnel. Data processing, our same list of typical small line items that he feels he's going to need. If we move on to the economic development, we can see here that, and I'm very sensitive to this for one reason, we got talking about this in the month of January. We used our contingency. We went into fund balance to the tune of $308,000 to settle the CSEA contract. And certainly, you know, the message has to be conveyed to the departments, you know, in conjunction with what Legislator Patel has brought up here as well. But, you know, we really have to avoid resolutions, if at all possible, that are going to invade our fund balance, and that message has to be conveyed to the departments, I think, because, I mean, here we have, you know, this is not a large one here, but obviously there might be a conversion of a position that may involve taking it out of fund balance and economic development. We need a resolution amending senior planner GIS line item to fund the remainder of the year. And, you know, it's been suggested here, any impact on fund balance, fund the senior planner and GIS line item for the remainder of the year. So that's not expected to be a large number there, but still, you know, a message to deliver. The next departmental area is personnel, and where fund balance is discussed a little bit, and perhaps the potential to invade it. And so if you move to page 6 of 11 there, you can see that, you know, the CSEA, like we just discussed, we hit fund balance for $308,654. Now, you know, the contract gets settled, we're out of contingency, we gotta do it, we gotta approve it. Legislator Duchessis, when I first got into office, spoke of we need to be able to see these things coming and we can't be blindsided by them. That's why we're doing departmental dashboard reports. That's why we're doing departmental reports. Okay, and so, you know, now, you know, we're already into it for, you know, to the tune of 308. You know, speaking with Sean, as you go down these next, the PBA, the Council 82, and the Teamsters, you know, I don't want to speak out loud to the percentage that we spoke about, but if I can say that if these are settled at typical percentages that they get settled at, which we're all fairly familiar, a couple percent, whatever, something in that range, the impacts potentially would be on the PBA would be about 125,000. On the Council 82, 50,000. On the Teamsters, about 175,000 if they all get settled this year. And so, you know, you blend that all together. You talk about the 308 that we used to settle the CSEA, and now we're up looking at a number that's, you know, about $650,000, and it's for our labor force, and we need that, and we got no place else to turn but a fund balance under the circumstances. But, you know, one thing that I spoke to the treasurer about was, and this becomes, and they'll explain it to you, I said, when we know that a contract has not yet been, or is due to be settled, or has expired, why do we not implement a line item in the personnel budget, you know, separate, that factors in the potential increase that we might see in that contract? When these get settled, we're gonna have to settle 18 retroactively, and we're gonna have to fund 19. Now, you know, 20 and 21 will be okay because we're you know, we're gonna know what the fixed cost is. But in the years where these things are hanging in the balance, and quite frankly, this is my first experience with it. You know, it's the first time, you know, in a 3-year term where all of these things are coming to the head at the same time. So it's gonna be a question, you know, we ask in budget time with personnel and human resources is, you know, what do we have pending here, and, you know, how can we hedge against those increases if it gets settled in our budget ahead of time and not after the fact. Now, I mean, I know you've explained and Sean has explained, it becomes a delicate balancing act because we're always trying to operate within the tax cap, and in trying to operate within the tax cap, we don't want to filter in numbers that we can't be sure are going to happen. But, you know, I think we're at a point now where we see this happening, that may not be a bad idea going forward. And I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but.
One of the problems I can foresee is if you create a line item for a future contract, and you see that money sitting there, I'm sure that every union that is negotiating is also seeing that same figure there, and they're saying, hey, the county's got $500,000 sitting off to the side in this fund, you know, we're not gonna settle for this percent because they've got a lot of money. And I understand what you're saying is because we're saving money so we can settle with everyone, but they see the money as,
But I will say this, we were sitting on about 300,000 for the CSEA contract from last year into this year, and that was sitting out there the whole time, and we still needed another 300,000 bucks. So, Legislator Duchessis.
I think that it might not be a bad strategy to budget for anticipated increases. I don't think that there's any impact at all with respect to any organized labor employee looking at that line item saying that they want to raise. They're going to negotiate for raises no matter what the circumstances are. Anyone here who's ever been a member of the union knows that. You're looking for a percentage increase. And I don't think that means spit. I think that doesn't make any difference one way or the other, whether that money is sitting there in a line item or whether it's yet to be conceived where it's going to come from. I think they're going to negotiate those raises. So it would be prudential, I think, just for once to take that into account. You know it's coming realistically. I mean, so if we can possibly budget that, I think that would make a lot of sense.
Thank you, Legislator Legislator.
I would submit that, if we increase the fund balance, we could put it in the fund balance and we wouldn't have to identify it as in a reserve somewhere. I don't think it would be hard to argue with organized labor that our fund balance is exorbitant. And if you had $3, $4, $5, $1 million extra in your fund balance, certainly then that would be something that you could use for that, and I would support it.
Just a couple thoughts on this discussion. I would say, I can say this now, we did not expect CSEA to settle. Mediation actually worked, and we were actually thought we were heading to impasse, and that was kind of an interesting dynamic there. We didn't know if that didn't settle, then we could use the $300,000 for the PBA, which really negotiations were at a standstill last year until this year, so we're going to see how it goes. But if you notice, the ones that are still out are all sheriff or correction related. So the good news is, if we do get those done, most of them will be done at least through 2020 or 21. Excuse me. So we'll know exactly what we're dealing with for the next few years, which is a good thing. You were exactly right related to the tax cap, and essentially, if we wanted to put $400,000 in a line for this, come budget time, we would have been responsible for $400,000 worth of cuts to make that balance, so we can get under the tax cap and then still remain at where we were at for fund balance usage, which is another thing. And I think it goes to Bob's point is we all agree in the goal. I don't think anybody disagrees that we'd like to build our fund balance, but if you're going to cut $2 million out of the county budget, you're going to be looking at personnel cuts and very, very difficult decisions that we've been trying to avoid up until this point. And hopefully we don't have to go there. But I do think that moving forward we will have clarity, and hopefully we can get these done, and this will be an issue for the next few years. And that's why one of the things we've been focusing on is getting contracts till long-term contracts, so we do all as a group have clarity.
Mr. Chairman, just one more open question so I don't belabor the point, but maybe someone can tell me how it's different than appropriating fund balance during the budget process to offset anticipated increases that have yet to come, putting them in the budget, or waiting till after the contract is negotiated and having to take the money from fund balance anyway.
True.
Well, I guess the point would be if you have it in fund balance, you're not telegraphing your punches what you're anticipating, what you're going to adjust the contracts by. And it's the same pocketbook, but you're not having a memo or a line that says, here, you're negotiating with us, this is what we put aside.
As I've mentioned earlier, and I can tell you from personal experience from negotiating really both sides of the table, but as a former Teamster, that's not something that
Did you go in and look at
consideration.
Did the Teamsters go in and look at the city line item to see that type of thing?
No, we anticipated, what we did was we started on a percentage that we wanted. That's,
yeah.
Gary.
Yes.
Just one more point, the point I really wanted to make is, we're also looking at these fixed specific costs of what the salaries are going to be, and we know exactly what they are. I would remind everyone that as part of these contracts, we made some significant changes on the healthcare side. Think back to the discussion related to emergency room visits and the over $500,000, if not more, and I forget the number off the top of my head, but it was significant. And we changed the copay sliding scale from $50 to $125, $150. I just brought my little girl to the emergency room, and we had a $200 copay because we're on my wife's insurance. So that, along with increasing the percentage of the contribution, increasing some of the copays, hopefully, and the thought process has always been, although you can't really nail it down until it's all said and done, is that, okay, we know exactly what those costs are, but maybe we'll have a better year on some of these other problems, or I shouldn't say problems, but some of these costs that were outside of the norm and far higher than what some of the other averages, especially as it relates to emergency rooms. So hopefully we'll start to see that as it's implemented throughout countywide, maybe, trend positively in our health insurance costs.
What makes that interesting, again, from my old perspective here, is that I can remember a time when the emphasis was always on keeping wages low. And so typically municipalities would give away things like health insurance when it was cheap, and time off when it was cheap, and other benefits that they thought didn't cost anything. And over the years, that situation reversed itself. You see, so now that leaves all of these entities, all these municipalities, in a position where they have to renegotiate those things that they gave away because they were not costly at the time. So there was no foresight, but placing the emphasis on keeping wages low is what led them down the wrong path. And typically, there was a whole period of probably 20 years when municipalities did not try to renegotiate compensatory time and health insurance, things of that nature.
Great discussion.
Legislator speak.
I agree. I think we need to be proactive, and during the budget time, we could have the personnel director and say, what are we anticipating? I mean, you don't have to have a line item that says every year you're going to put $500,000 in it. If you know next year there's really nothing coming up, well then there's nothing that you really need to do. I just don't want to get into the roller coaster taxation. This year you do nothing, next year you do, like Johnstown, city of Johnstown, school districts are looking at 50%. Now, I mean, you don't want to get into that pattern. Keep it level, keep it smooth, and things will go. But I mean, I think if you look ahead,
You have to admit, though, it's a more interesting discussion than who likes fund balance better.
True. All right, and just looking at the rest of this departmental report, the only other one where there was a red flag was from the sheriff, but he came and explained to you last month, how was able to offset this one concern of his there. And social services, we just talked about very much in depth as we were going over the dashboard. So there's another item here that you were just handed. It was brought to my attention today by Legislator Sweet, and he was had access to this piece of paper here, and I refrained from indicating what it is, and you can all see what it is. It's a resolution from a contiguous county regarding aid and incentives to municipalities, and the governor's passing an amendment to the budget that would divert the cost of this from the state over to local municipalities. And the contiguous municipality here who passed this resolution is opposing it. So it's certainly something we wanted to bring to your attention, and I would ask our county executive to elaborate on this a little bit, and if you foresee us seeing a resolution of this nature, since it's something it's in the news.
Yeah, initially the cut to aid, was viewed as a town and city issue, but, you know, with the amendment, basically saying you're gonna use county sales tax to make, your towns and city whole, and the issue of the Amazon tax, when that's gonna be implemented, it certainly could impact us greatly, and I think going on the record and putting, a stamp as where we stand on it can't hurt. But I have not heard anything new. I'll be in Albany tomorrow, and certainly be something I'll be asking our senator, if he's heard anything new, and try to get in contact with NYSAC, but, you know, certainly having a board resolution, I'm sure there's been a lot of them around the state, will help. But, the governor has made a point to try to make life difficult on local governments, and through various initiatives, and I think.
You mean he's not already?
Well, you know, I think through the shared services, panels, and now this, I think you're seeing certainly a more emboldened trend.
Legislator Kelly.
Now that we're getting closer to the AUD, can we have a dashboard report that actually shows, actual numbers as they've been booked and reconciled?
You mean in addition to this one?
Yeah, if we can have the dashboard, so December 31st, the books are closed. As we're getting closer to the year end, we'll actually see where we ended up, not how it's been booked, but actually reconciled.
So we don't have to ask you.
So, no, I just want to see how we ended up at the end of last year.
But isn't the audit itself the document that shows us how we ended up?
I think it's easier to digest, being we're all trained on looking at the dashboard if we can look at it.
So you want a posthumous one dated 12/31 to see how it, okay. Sean?
It's just a, right,
okay.
You just dump it in.
Well, now that's this question, do you want me to, it may not be next month, do you want me to do it that mirrors the detail of the AUD when that's?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, because I'd like to see where our insurance and stuff also.
Okay, sounds like a good idea, thanks. The only other thing under other that I'd like to bring up is, I want to thank each and, oh, yes. Let's start at the top.
After you, I'll go after you.
No, I'm sure you have business to take care of.
Thank you. Recently, Legislator Pep and I had met with officials from the city of Amsterdam, the mayor, two of the aldermen, Sean and Matt. And we had a discussion of where we really are with the city of Amsterdam, and we established that there were some issues. We made great progress. We had great discussions about what we can do to help each other. One thing that we talked about is possibly merging the auctions so we can have a better reception of people that come in and take care of it. I understand, Sean, you've gotten some reconciliation from and the city of Amsterdam's charter requires that the controller reconciles every year with our treasurer, and it really wasn't happening before, but now we've established a formal understanding with that. And can you just bring us up to date on where we are with that?
Well, like I said, what came out of this meeting was we're trying to get an agreement on what we have receivable from them and what they have on their books payable to us. And it's gonna be a working process. It's gonna take some time, but we're gonna work from the most current year back. Right now, we currently have outstanding taxes back to 2000 on the books. So it's going to be a work in progress, and we'll keep everybody up to date as we move along with this project.
Thank you. Wanted to clarify so we're all on the same page, because that going back to 2000 opens up a whole other possible questions. But it was a great meeting, and I appreciate your time.
And I thank you, Legislator Patel, for gathering that committee together to take a look at that. It's a certainly topical issue for both of us. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for your kind words, thoughts, and deeds as it pertained to the passing of my father last week. We have spirited discussions like we just did on certain topics, we're all a team, and I really felt part of the team as it pertained to that with everything that everybody did, the cards, the coming to the wake, the gifts, the flowers, everything. Thank you so very much. It meant a lot to me to know that all of you care that much. So thank you very much. Now I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
To discuss litigation.
To discuss litigation. You gotta get one of them.
Who's making the motion?
Chairman Adwell and seconded by Legislator Sweet.
I make a motion that we come out of executive session where no business was conducted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion for